Greetings, programs. Welcome to Rationality, from AI to Zombies. This is where we start a new section, Part D, called Mysterious Ancestry. Chapter 30, Fake Explanations. Once upon a time, there was an instructor who taught physics students. One day, the instructor called them into the classroom and showed them a wide, square plate of metal next to a hot radiator. The students each put their hand on the plate and found that the side next to the radiator was cool, and the distant side was warm. The instructor said, "Why do you think this happens?" Some students guessed convection of air currents. Others guessed strange metals in the plate. They devised many creative explanations, none stooping so low as to say, "I don't know," or "This seems impossible." And the answer was that before the students entered the room, the instructor turned the plate around. Consider the student who frantically stammers, maybe because the heat conduction and so. I ask, is this answer a proper belief? The words are easy enough to profess, said in a loud, emphatic voice. But do the words actually control anticipation? Ponder that innocent little phrase, because of, which comes before heat conduction. Ponder some of the other things we could put after it. We could say, for example, because of phlogiston, or because of magic. Magic, you cry? That's not a scientific explanation. Indeed, the phrases because of heat conduction and because of magic are readily recognized as belonging to different literary genres. Heat conduction is something that Spock might say on Star Trek, whereas magic would be said by Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. However, as Bayesians, we take no notice of literary genres. For us, the substance of a model is a control it exerts on our anticipation. If you say heat conduction, what experience does that lead you to anticipate? Under normal circumstances, it leads you to anticipate that if you put your hand on the side of the plate near the radiator, that side will feel warmer than the opposite side. If, because of heat conduction, can also explain the radiator adjacent side feeling cooler, then it can pretty much explain anything. And as we all know by this point, I do hope, if you are equally good at explaining any outcome with something, you have zero knowledge. Because of heat conduction, used in such a fashion, is a disguised hypothesis of maximum entropy. It is anticipation isomorphic to saying magic. It feels like an explanation, but it is not. Suppose that instead of guessing, we measured the heat of the metal plate at various points and various times. Seeing a metal plate next to the radiator, we would ordinarily expect the point temperatures to satisfy an equilibrium of the diffusion equation with respect to the boundary conditions imposed by the environment. You might not know the exact temperature of the first point measured, but after measuring the first points, I am not physicist enough to know how many would be required, you could make an excellent guess at the rest. A true master of the art of using numbers to constrain the anticipation of material phenomena, a physicist, would take some measurements and say, this plate was in equilibrium with the environment 2.5 minutes ago, turned around, and is now approaching equilibrium again. The deeper error of the student is not simply that they fail to constrain anticipation. Their deeper error is that they thought they were doing physics. They said the phrase, because of, followed by the sort of words Spock might say on Star Trek, and thought they thereby entered the magisterium of science. Not so. They simply moved their magic from one literary genre to another. Here ends the very short Chapter 30. Now for my thoughts. Now, for those of you that have read or listened to Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality, and I highly recommend the audiobook, it's very good. This one actually showed up in the story. It was one of those, why didn't people think to ask about the simple explanation thing, whereas Just as it is with here, no one said anything about, I could not have set this up just before you got here. Everybody just assumed things, and they were wrong. The point that Eliezer is making here is that they were not making scientific explanations. They were just throwing words out. Could have just as easily said, magic, or because of stuff, which, if you were demanding an explanation from somebody about something, you would not accept just because of stuff as an explanation. It's no answer at all, and you know that. Well, because conduction is in the same vein. If you were trying to explain some bizarre property of conduction, like, I don't know, maybe it's something along the lines of a Peltier effect cooler that has been plugged in and left running for a bit, something unusual and unexpected like that, then you would need to say that. You can't just scream out words like, because conduction. Pretty short chapter, pretty short thoughts about it. That was a nice straightforward one, unlike a lot of the other ones. That's all for today. Bye for now.